Hiya. So in this video I'm going to talk to you about converting between units of length, area and volume. Well, first of all, what sort of units are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the traditional millimetres, centimetres, metres really. And for the area it will be millimetres squared, centimetres squared, metres squared, and for the volume it will be millimetres cubed, centimetres cubed and metres cubed. We've just got to be able to convert between all of these. Why? Because it's useful, that's why. Okay, right, let's look at length first of all. So I'm just going to write down a few conversions that I'm hoping should be really obvious to you all. Okay, so start off with 1 metre. How many centimetres is that? Yeah, it's 100. Okay, 100 centimetres. Quite simply, the C in centimetres, cent is French for 100. That's why it's ridiculously easy. Okay. Also, 1 metre is the same as 1,000 millimetres, isn't it? Okay, and you should also be aware that 1 centimetre is the same as 10 millimetres. Okay, so there you go. Those are really the main conversions you need to know. Sometimes you've got questions rather than kilometres. You should know what a kilometre is. So 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres, of course. But what if you want to convert that now into centimetres? Why on earth would you want to do that? Why? Just because you might be asked in a maths exam. Honestly, it's the only reason why you'd want to convert kilometres into centimetres. Okay, so if we're going to do that, we're going to say 1 kilometre is the same as 1,000 metres, which is 1,000 of those. So 100 times 1,000, which is 100,000. Okay, centimetres. And if you want to know what 1 kilometre was in millimetres, again, why would you want to know that? Just because, for the sake of, you might be asked in an exam, that's it, that's the only reason. Okay, 1 kilometre, again, you should know is 1,000 metres, and then that's going to be 1,000 of those, which is 1,000 of those, so 1,000, which is a million. Okay, so 1 million millimetres. Now, just do be aware, sometimes the examiners like to put things as standard form for you. Okay, you should know how standard form works. So, for example, 100 is the same as 10 squared. Okay, 1,000 is the same as 10 to the power of 3. 10, of course, is the same as 10 to the power of 1. That's 10 to the power of 3 again. This one here is 10 to the power of 5, and this one here is 10 to the power of 6. Quite simply, in these cases, these really simple cases, the 6 is how many zeros you've got in the end. The 5 zeros, the 1 0, and so on. Okay, but that's generally what you need to memorise, what you need to know for converting between units of length. Okay, let's look at the areas now. So I'm going to rub these off. I'm going to draw you a diagram, which I suggest you take a note of, because it's a really helpful diagram that shows you these particular conversions that I'm going to give you. Okay, and I'm just going to draw simple squares, that's it, just simple squares. Now imagine that is 1 square metre. Okay, so that's 1 metre by 1 metre. That's what we mean by 1 square metre, isn't it? Okay, 1 metre times 1 metre. Now if I convert that into centimetres, as in if I put the lengths in centimetres and work out the area in centimetres squared, I'm going to have 100 centimetres, because 1 metre is 100 centimetres. This will be 100 centimetres. Now multiply the two together. 100 times 100 gives you 10,000 centimetres squared. Okay, so the first conversion I'm going to give you is this, that 1 metre squared, or 1 square metre, is the same as 10,000 centimetres squared. Okay, that is it. What about millimetres squared? Okay, well, you can do the same again. You can just say that 1 metre is the same as 1,000 millimetres, and here again that will be 1,000 millimetres. And if you work out the area, you do that times that, 1,000 times 1,000. It's a million this time. That's a lot, isn't it? Okay, that's a million this time. So 1 metre squared is also the same as 1 million millimetres squared. Okay, and those are pretty useful conversions to know. Okay, I won't do the kilometre squared because, to be honest, in Excel maths, that's not generally asked for. Okay, it's normally the centimetre squared and metres squared. Okay, but those are the conversions that you need to know for area. Lastly, I'll do volume. And you can probably see where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to look at drawing a diagram to show you why the conversions are the way they are. Okay, so the diagram I'm going to draw this time is going to be a cuboid, or a cube actually, as opposed to a cuboid. There we go. A cube. Of course, you know what a cube is. All the lengths of all the edges are exactly the same. Okay. Now imagine that is 1 cubic metre. So 1 metre cubed. So that means all of the dimensions, all 3 of them, are 1 metre. Okay. Notice, you know, the cube stands for the 3 dimensions there. Just the squared stands for the 2 dimensions. So you get 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. So 1 metre cubed. Okay. Let's put all that into centimetres now, shall we? Put it all to centimetres. So 1 metre is 100 centimetres. So each of these lengths is going to be 100 centimetres. So what's the volume going to be in cubic centimetres? Well, it's going to be 100 times 100 times 100, which is 1,000,000. 1,000,000. Okay, I might not be able to squeeze it all in there. Okay, so I'm going to write it underneath, if you don't mind. So 1 cubic metre is the same as 1,000,000 cubic centimetres, which is quite a lot, isn't it? It's quite a lot. Okay, and in standard form that will be 10 to the power of 6. What about in terms of millimetres cubed? Okay, what would that be? Well, in millimetres cubed, you'd have 1 metre, each being 1,000 millimetres. So let's put all that in there, and then do the multiplication. You have 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, so rather a long number, isn't it? Okay, but I'm going to write it in here. So 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000 is this number here, 1,000 million, or 1 billion, or in standard form 10 to the power of 9. So the numbers get pretty huge when it starts talking about volume. Okay, and the reason is because you've got to multiply these 3 together, you see. Because the numbers start getting so huge in that Excel exam, they often only really interested in looking at between metres cubed and centimetres cubed. Okay, so that's that. Now, before I go on to talk about something else, let me just say one last thing. Okay, tying in with this idea of volume, you know, we use litres and millilitres as a measurement of volume as well, and we call those capacities. Okay, a volume, strictly speaking, is when you've got a solid shape. So imagine this cube is made of solid wood, for example, and that'd be 1 cubic metre of solid wood. But imagine this is some empty tank, some empty container, a large fish tank or something like that. Okay, that's pretty large. Okay, if it's 1 metre by 1 metre by 1 metre. Okay, we tend to use litres and millilitres for capacity. So that's the difference between volume and capacity. I know this unit isn't strictly about capacity, but I thought it's well worth mentioning it now. Okay, and you need to know that 1 litre, okay, is the same as 1,000 cubic centimetres. Okay, 1 millilitre is the same as 1 cubic centimetre. You see? Okay, you just need to be aware of that conversion. So here's a quick question for you now. That metre cube that I put up earlier, where it's 1 metre by 1 metre by 1 metre, how many litres would that be? Maybe pause the video, quickly work it out. Okay. Well, remember the 1 metre cubed. Okay, we said that that was 1,000,000 cubic centimetres. So basically, we're saying how many litres would fit into that. Okay. So 1 litre, 1,000 cubic centimetres. It would be 1,000, wouldn't it? Okay. So this would be 1,000 litres. Okay, kind of puts things into perspective for you a little bit as well. Okay, because a metre's not really that large, is it? A metre's probably something like that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and so imagine a box that's just 1 cubic, just sit in front of you. Okay, it's not really that big, to be honest, is it? Okay, but you can fit 1,000 litres of liquid into that. Okay. Traditionally 1,000 litres of water can fit into that, okay, which is quite kind of fascinating. Okay, Just before I stop the video, just move on, because I kind of love this subject, because I'm trying to relate it to the real world a little bit now, okay? Approximately, you could say that 1 milliliter of water, okay, is about 1 gram in mass. Okay, about 1 gram in mass, okay? So what that mean for 1 litre, okay? How much is that going to be in terms of mass, okay? Well, 1,000 of these, that's going to be 1,000 grams, 1 kilogram. It's kind of handy, isn't it? Okay, 1 litre is approximately 1 kilogram in mass. So how heavy is this then? How heavy is your cubic metre full of water? Pretty heavy, isn't it? Pretty heavy. 1,000 litres, 1,000 kilograms, okay? You're looking at 1 tonne, T-O-N-N-E, you're looking at 1 tonne. That's why you would not be able to lift it. Have you ever filled a small garden swimming pool of water, okay? You go into the garden when it's summer and you've ever filled it with water, okay? And then have you ever tried to lift it when it's full? You can't, can you? Because, you know, you've got at least this amount of water in there probably. You can't lift 1 tonne full of water, okay? It's extremely heavy, okay? Now, imagine when you're out in the sea. Yeah, why do you get knocked over by the waves, okay? I bet there's more than 1 cubic metre of water coming at you when you're in a wide open sea, okay? It's because, you know, it's pretty heavy, okay? 1 tonne, okay? The reason you don't feel like it's 1 tonne is because the water kind of submerges all past you, it kind of flows past you. It's not, you know, it's not a solid object, okay? But a tsunami, okay? When you've got the pressure of the water moving that quickly, and you talk about millions of tonnes here, sweeping through an island or a village or whatever, that's what makes a lot of destruction, okay? Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. Okay, sorry for ending on a destruction note. Shouldn't really do that. Okay, I thought I'd share all that with you because it's kind of useful to know all these things and why they're, you know, applicable in the real world. Okay, hope you enjoyed that.